Hey everyone, it's Jack. I know a lot of us have been feeling pretty down recently, so I want to talk about some Drag Race episodes that pick me up when I'm feeling down. There's no real rhyme or reason. It could just be an entertaining episode, or maybe the queens are rewarded in some way, something that just makes me feel good when I watch it. Thanks for all your support. I'm super happy to be posting for everyone. I'll always be here to post if you need a break from it all. And let's jump into it. Whenever I think of the topic of feel-good episodes, one episode always really comes to mind for me, and that's the Superfan Makeover from season 12. I don't exactly know why, but I believe there's some subconscious link that I have with this episode in a time where I really did just need to feel good. Of course, it came out in 2020, so there's some obvious reasons there. I think I remember watching it for the first time, especially the lip sync. Seeing 6 women have their dreams come true of not only seeing the Drag Race set, but also participating in a challenge, getting made over. They're for sure living my dream, and it's something that I can find a lot of enjoyment in. I don't know about other people, but I do get emotional when I see other people have like the experience of a lifetime. I saw a TikTok recently of a woman crying at the New York Marathon because she was like, oh, everyone's worked so hard and they're doing such a good job. So it's the same concept here, and honestly a lot of the makeovers share the same thing. Most of the time these people get to experience what it's like to be in drag for the first time and see that transformation. And when you do it to superfans who've been watching the show for the longest time, that's just one of the coolest concepts ever, and I want them to do it again. And have me on, but that's just a bonus. We also get 2 of the most iconic makeovers here, Jada's looks, which are just perfection, and the Bert and Ernie homage that Crystal Method did, one of the coolest makeovers ever. This was around the time that makeovers didn't appear every single season, but when they did, the queens would always play it safe, just bringing an outfit that was really close to their aesthetic. But Crystal was able to fit the outfit into her vibe while also doing an extra concept on top of that with the homage to Bert and Ernie. This is what I think queens should strive for with their makeovers, and even though I'm super happy with the Jada win, this is the one that really persists in my mind. What's great is that all the pairs in the makeover feel like they were perfectly matched. Each pair had very similar personalities, and all the women seemed really down to do anything. So that led to a really great product with very little conflict. And the conflict that's built into the show, queens being in the bottom, was also kind of circumvented in this episode because there was a double Shantae. This is the moment that I remember watching from the episode because I was a huge Jackie Cox fan and also a huge Heidi fan, and we saw just how much it meant to each of the women who were participating in the makeover. Do I think it's the best double Shantae lip sync? No, I don't think so. But when they pushed forward the whole positive vibe of the entire episode into the lip sync, it led to a finished product that just makes me feel so good, and it always cheers me up when I watch it. Let's actually stick with season 12 and talk about an episode that came out just a little before the lockdown. Season 12's premiere is up there with some of the best of the show, and I'm eventually going to do a ranking of all the premiere episodes. While nowadays split premieres are basically the standard for the show and the premieres, by season 12 we hadn't seen a split premiere since season 6. It made everything feel so fresh and just got the show started off on the right foot, especially after a season that wasn't received the best. I truly think that the season 12 premiere was so good that they've been trying to emulate it ever since. Whether they do a talent show or a girl group, it all is trying to come back to this magic that they had on this episode. Speaking of girl groups, this was the first time that we had a group of queens get together and write and record verses on episode 1. The track itself is one of the best of the show, and by today's standards, it may come off a little generic, but that's only because everyone's trying to use this track as the blueprint. The queens in I'm That Bitch were tasked to write a really confident bitch track verse. So talking about the competition and how you're gonna take the crown, that's just the most logical. My big issue is when queens see this song and then they try to apply taking the crown concept to a song that really doesn't need it. I'm getting off track. Did I mention they performed this in front of Nicki Minaj? Say what you want about Nicki Minaj, but there's a reason that she stayed in this game so long, and having the opportunity to perform your lyrics in front of her is insane. And practically all the queens got praise for their performances, and there wasn't really a bad one in the bunch. And at the time, this was one of only 2 premieres that didn't have a queen get eliminated in the first episode. One of my favorite moments of the show are when Gigi and Widow are announced as the top 2 instead of the bottom 2, and they just get to celebrate. This was also the first season to change the pricing for each challenge win. Rather than getting some product that the queens maybe not actually want, they instead just get $5,000 for winning a challenge, and I think this is such a welcome change. I've said the word change a lot in this section, and I think that's just the way to best define it. There were so many changes that came with the season 12 premiere to make it feel so distinct from any season that came before it. And it's the season that roped a lot of people back into the show, even if they fell off, because it was airing at a time where everyone needed something to watch. All-Star 7 is another season that just overall has a really good vibe to it. These winners are coming back to compete again. It's just a celebration of all of their success and the success of Drag Race in general. And while I definitely think that it started out stronger than it finished, I do really think that strong start is something that we need to talk about. I think the first episode is a very quality episode of TV, but the Snatch Game and the Ball episodes 2 and 3 are the ones that I always come back to watch because they're just incredible. For the Snatch Game episode, you have a winner's size Snatch Game. They're playing two of them, playing two characters, and we get some of the most standout performances of the show, the most iconic of course being Jinx Monsoon as Judy Garland. Reality competition shows are easily my biggest fixation in life, I want to say, and when there's an all-star season, it feels like an itch is getting scratched in my brain and I'm being rewarded for watching so much of the show. And that itch is scratched even further when they make a deep cut reference, and that's what Jinx did on Snatch Game. She talks about Dan, the veteran that she made over on season 5. He feared he had an influence in Judy Garland's passing, and so in character, Jinx forgives him. It's one of the most out-of-field ridiculous jokes, and only something like this can happen on All Stars. And Jinx is one of the only people to ever think of doing something like this. And everyone else did such a great job in the Snatch Game. While episode 1 was definitely a good introduction, this was the episode that proved why each of these queens was a winner. And we get more of that in each of the looks that the winner serves on the runway. Pleather Principle to me is an all-time category, and each of the queens shows why that is. My personal favorite is Jada's Matrix look. This look has stuck with me for years, ever since this aired. And the looks continue into the third episode, which is randomly based around Wheel of Fortune, but honestly, I kind of enjoy it. Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune also makes an appearance, and it's just one of my favorite moments of the show as well when they get surprised by her.
You are stunning, Vanna.
Raja.
Oh my.
We're twins.
Oh, hi, May. How are you?
The tuck.
I love watching each of these queens interact in the workrooms while at the same time being able to show off their crazy talents. And the episode ends with Jada giving a performance to Greenlight by Beyonce in this incredible outfit, and it's honestly one of my favorite performances from any lip sync. After episode 3 is when the season started to just fall into the natural groove of Drag Race. Not a lot of twists and turns on the format or surprise guests. That's definitely not the bad thing that it fell into the groove. I mean, the Drag Race groove is great. There's just a reason that episodes 2 and 3 always really stick with people out of the season. Speaking of an episode that really stuck with people, even though it didn't really have any right to, I want to talk about the Daytona wins in season 14. Acting challenges among the fan base definitely aren't up there with the highest rated episodes, and I would probably say the same. Normally at best, they are serviceable episodes that are a good beat in the story but don't really go beyond that, and at their worst, it's really hard to get through the episode. But again, after so many years, some episodes go above and beyond, and I think Daytona Wins shows off a really creative side to how they could do the acting challenges. Season 14 in general, their challenges were extremely creative to other seasons around it. And I think one of the main examples is with this acting challenge where they played it all super serious, only to realize all of the punchlines of the jokes, them being fart jokes, are edited in after the fact. I don't think that fart jokes are all that funny, but I do think it's funny to watch other people react to the ridiculousness of it. Watching the end product was way less about watching the queen's performances and way more watching their reactions. RuPaul sitting there knowing what's about to happen, and yet she still dies laughing, getting a tissue to wipe her tears away. That is the unbridled joy that I get out of this episode, watching other people have unbridled joy. And all of this being followed up by a non-elimination episode, probably the only episode that needed to be a non-elimination in season 14. The non-elimination made the final product that much more fun to watch because we didn't really need to worry about anyone going home. And Lady Camden has one of my favorite performances in any acting challenge, and also one of my favorite lip sync performances of all time. I've talked about this performance a lot, but it seems like Lady Camden is really in her natural element and she's having fun on stage, and that fun is just infectious. The episode is not serious at all, and I think that's the point. It provided a really nice break in the competition for so many of the queens, and even if it was the first of many breaks on season 14, this was the one that should have counted. If I want to watch just a classic Drag Race episode, 2 episodes come to mind. The first is the RuPaul Roast, an episode that I've definitely praised a lot before. First of all, it's the first roast that they've ever done on the show, and I think a lot of the performances still hold up really well today. And second, I still think it's one of, if not the best episode for storytelling on Drag Race basically ever. There's a perfect transition away from the Coco and Alyssa storyline that carried the first half of the season into a more focused storyline on Jinx and the end of the season. So many pieces are set into place this episode, and I can watch it just to appreciate that, or I can more so kick back and just watch the absurdity of it all. Alyssa going, duh, duh, Oh, I can say that one. That's still one of my favorite reactions ever, especially when it's paired with the fact that she completely bombs the roast.
I can't read this last one, because they're gonna be like,
I keep hearing, oh,
oh my gosh.
But with her bombing the roast, we get the lip sync with Roxy Andrews, and it becomes one of the most influential lip syncs of all time. The wig under a wig is a trick that's always welcome, but here it was an extremely novel trick to do, and her pulling it off with an amazing reaction from the judges solidified the moment. The episode ends with a double Shantae and a message about how you get to choose your family when you're a queer person. And that message has always stuck so true to me, and it's definitely an important one that we need to talk about right now. Found family is such a beautiful thing, and Drag Race can bring a lot of people together to be that family. The only other acting challenge that comes to mind as one of my favorite episodes is Scream Queens on season 6. And it's honestly not for any particular reason, there's just moments in this episode that I really enjoy. The queens meeting each other, how cringy the filming is, some of the runways are amazing. I'd say overall, I just like this episode a lot because it's an extreme character builder episode for so many people. We get the shadiness from Bianca and the equal shadiness from Gia. We see Adore's approach to challenges and how it's definitely not the best. Darian's win solidifies this narrative on Drag Race that there's no small parts, just small actors, which I don't know if is always true, but it's definitely great that she won here. And we see Trinity K. Bonet struggle in this challenge to really play to the camera and remember her lines. This point actually brings me to my next entry. Side Hustles from All-Star 6 is up there with the perfect episode of television. And again, there's no real right for this episode to be as good as it is. Seeing Trinity finally get a win, especially after struggling a lot in season 6, things that are very present in the challenge like playing to the camera and remembering her lines, that was incredible to see, and it pushed the theming of the season of redemption. But seeing Yara Sofia, Pandora Box, Raja O'Hara, and Trinity K. Bonet all work together, I feel like before watching the season, you'd kind of expect them to not do super well. And yet they still pull off an incredible parody commercial, and it makes you think that anything can really happen on All-Star 6. I really think this was the episode that sold everyone on the season. The reaction to the cast from the fandom was definitely not the best, or at least it was middling, but after the performances in this episode and how they were telling the story, I think everyone got on board. And of course, we can't talk about this episode without mentioning the amazing lip sync between Trinity K. Bonet and her season 6 sister, Laganja Estranja. Laganja's entrance is one of the most memorable moments from the show. I still remember when I jumped out of my seat, and she did not take her foot off the gas for the entire lip sync. While the lip sync assassin twist on All Stars 5 had some successes, and up to 3 on All Stars 6, they were pretty consistently great, Laganja's performance just had a vibe to it that was like, okay, they are actually really trying the season. On top of all of this, out of every All-Star season, All-Star 6 tells the best story when it comes to who is getting eliminated. That being, it is always going to be a toss-up. In seasons past, I feel like it's pretty easy to pick up on who the queens are eliminating, while in each elimination here, you never really know who the queens are gonna choose. And this episode is no different. I do think a bottom 4 was a little bit excessive, but it made for a really interesting choice. All 4 of them did really decent in the competition up to this point, but honestly, any of them could have gone home. The queen that was eliminated was Silky Nutmeg Ganache, and yep, this is the episode that starts her tear in the Game Within a Game on All-Stars 6. This is the quintessential All-Stars 6 episode, and honestly, All-Stars episode in general. There's redemptions, there's drama, there's great runways like the Redemption Runway. There's so much to love, and I always come back to this episode when I want a good episode of TV that makes me feel good. And finally, the last episode I want to end on is season 16's Lollapalooza. Lollapaloozas at the end of the season are an incredible thing for tying up all of the loose strings in the season, and I think the best example is with season 16. The lip syncs are incredible, each queen is there to have a good time even if they know they aren't gonna win, and we get resolutions to conflicts that we didn't really get to finish off on the main season. Morphine won the thing overall, and I think deservedly so, but I think the star of this episode was Megami. Her whole storyline throughout the season was being underestimated by everyone, and that was still true here, and she was there to prove every single person wrong. She won every single lip sync and lip synced the most in the episode. Each of her performances was different and dynamic, and I loved every second of it. This was the perfect episode to head into the finale. I love reunions, but honestly, Lollapaloozas might be even better, I'm not sure. I'd love to see this be a reoccurring thing, and hopefully it always stays super fresh. I actually lied, I have one more episode that definitely is feel good 1000%. It's the prom episode from Canada's Drag Race Season 2, a very topical episode because my friend Michaela just got on Season 5. In this episode, the queens are making over LGBTQ+ youth into prom kings and queens. They get to throw their queer prom, and I think it's the most wholesome concept for any makeover ever. All of them get to explore themselves in a way that they hadn't really gotten to beforehand. The entire message feels so positive. It highlights the organizations such as the Rainbow Railroad that takes place in Canada. While there have been so many good episodes of Canada, I don't know if anything is ever going to top this one for just how it makes me feel. If you haven't seen this episode yet, I highly recommend it, even watching it in a vacuum, but I highly recommend season 2 in general. And if you watch this episode, it will get you ready for Michaela coming back on season 5. I'm so excited for it. Talking about Drag Race always tends to cheer me up, and I definitely feel better now. There's a ton more episodes that I can talk about, and I really like if you share in the comments below some of your favorite episodes or favorite moments, just things that make you feel good on Drag Race. There's always time to take a step back, prioritize yourself, prioritize what makes you happy. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon with another video.